Hey, what's up everybody? It's Flux of fluxwithit.com, and today we're going to check out the 1.4 update to the ASM Hydrasynth. So the 1.4 update adds a bunch of improvements, bug fixes, and a few new features as well. First thing I'm going to talk about is the new noise types. So previously we had our white, pink, and brown noise, but now in addition to that we have our red, blue, violet, and gray. And I'll scroll through them all really quickly. So that's going to be really nice for doing percussive sounds and atmospheric sounds, that sort of thing. Let's get into the really interesting thing here though. There is a new mutant called PhazDiff. Okay, now I have a saw wave loaded up here, and I'm going to go to the PhazDiff. With PhazDiff selected, I can really shift the whole waveform. It's a flipped and inverted copy of the same waveform, which allows us to do some really interesting things. Let's take a look at a saw wave. So you'll notice how the saw wave turned into a square wave, okay? Let's do something a little bit more interesting with that. So we can get pulse width modulation there. But you're like, hey, I already have pulse width modulation in 3 different methods from the Hydrasynth already. What do I need another one for? Well, that's where PhazDiff gets a little weird, because it's not just pulse width modulation. Again, remember, that was a saw wave originally, so that means that we can do some really weird things with other waveforms, and we can get some strange effects when we modulate these effects. Let's take this first to 50% wet dry. Now, as I adjust these parameters while adjusting the dry wet, start to notice things are a little bit deeper than they appear. So let's take something like, say, a sine wave. What happens to a sine wave? Well, if I adjust the depth, the phase will just shift of the sine wave until it disappears. Now, what can we do with that? Well, we can do some really interesting phasing and chorus effects, and we can also make our waveforms manipulate in really strange ways. Let's take something like, say, the Spectrum A4 wave here. Let's take that depth down. It's like we're shifting aspects of this waveform all around, right? Now let's modulate it, okay? We'll take LFO3 to the depth. We'll take it about 40. And let's actually make this LFO a little bit slower. What do we say? Take it down here a bit. Let's give it a triangle wave, actually. There we go. So you're getting some really interesting movement out of just this single oscillator and mutant setup, okay? Now, if I bring this to 100%, this can be really useful for bass sounds as well. So if I bring this out and take a saw wave, drop the octave, and let's give it some filtering here. Just really basically setting up a super simple bass patch. And again, this is all one oscillator that you're hearing do this kind of beating thing, but at the same time, you know, the phase is shifting, but you're not losing energy. Now when you take that and apply it to two oscillators, I'm going to copy this oscillator and I'll copy the Mutant. Again, you just hold down save, press the first slot that you want to copy, and then the slot that you want to paste to, and you can do that. It's just a quick, easy way to build up your sounds. And let's bring in that second oscillator. So I'm going to drop oscillator 1 just a bit. And I'm going to I'll use the same LFO to modulate the Mutant on the second oscillator, except I'm going to have it go a bit further. So now I've got this kind of complex phasing thing going on here. And of course, I'll do a little bit more modulation just because I can. We'll do the dry wet of Mutant 3. And we'll do the dry wet of, actually, we'll take this and make that free running. We'll speed it up a bit. And of course, when we spread our voices a bit, I'm going to turn on warm mode, a little bit of analog feel. Stereo width will go up to about 50. And if we detune the oscillators, just a really cool sound, and you're kind of, you know, able to manipulate the waveforms in whole new ways. Let's change that second oscillator. That synclav sounds cool. Change that first oscillator up a bit. And that's the new PhazDiff. So that's going to allow you to do so many different things. When you start doing an atmospheric pad, for example, and you slowly fade that in, you can get some really great sounds. I'll show a quick example of that. So let me drop the sustain a bit here. Nice long release, long attack, long decay. Yeah. All right. And we'll make it a 2 oscillator. Okay. PhazDiff on oscillator 1 here. And we're going to bring in the dry wet of that on envelope 3. And that's going to be a nice 6-second attack time. And we'll give it a little bit of filtering here. A little bit of modulation on the depth. Now, of course, I'm making these like this slow atmospheric thing, which might not be the most riveting thing to watch right now, but as we start changing things around a bit, it gets really beautiful. So we'll do a wave edit here and build our own wavetable, because when you have a wavetable synth, you can do that sort of thing. If your wavetable synth actually has a lot of power under the hood and isn't just, you know, playing static waveforms or whatever. So we'll do, that should be good. Let's see. And we'll do the same over here. Something kind of interesting. I'm using the random button, just holding down random and pressing different waveforms and letting it build it out for me. It's just a quick, easy way to make a brand new wavetable. And let's modulate the wave scan on these. And that's before we even get to any kind of effects or other mutants on here. Apply the PhazDiff to the second oscillator here as well. And we'll throw some modulation on it. And add some reverb here. A little bit of poly aftertouch, because again, if you have it, why not, right? So we'll have that go to our depth. So I think you get the point. We got a new PhazDiff Mutator. We've got new noise types and a bunch of bug fixes. Just another cool free update from ASM on the Hydrasynth 1.4. This is Flux. Peace.